raise your arm.
Yes.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Tracy Howard Nix.
And Ms. Nix, obviously, you are the defendant in this case. You have two children,
I do.
okay, and your names?
Kaila Suzanne Nix and Rebecca Ann Nix.
Okay. Kaila is your firstborn child.
She is.
Okay. When you were pregnant with her, was that a difficult pregnancy?
It was difficult getting pregnant. It wasn't, the pregnancy itself was not difficult, but getting pregnant was very difficult.
And how did her birth make you feel?
How did what?
How did her birth make you feel?
I'm glad that you're sitting there, Kaila, because I want to speak directly to you. That's why I'm sitting here, facing you. Your dad and I didn't want to have children right up front. And, you know, you have this thought that when you want to have children, that it'll just happen. And that's not what happened with you. I went through fertility. We tried on our own for a long time. And then I went through fertility drugs to try to have you. And then I went through surgery to clean everything out and to try to have you. And I tell you that because I want you to know how much you were wanted and how much you were loved. I thought you were the most beautiful girl that had ever been born on this planet. I thought you were the smartest girl that I had ever seen. And I adored you. Was I a perfect mom? No. No, I wasn't. But I love you. And I have always loved you with all my heart. And I tell you that because I can't imagine how I would have acted and reacted had you been taken from me. I cannot imagine that. And then if Rebecca had also been taken, it would have been more than I could have taken in. And that's the only way that I can understand what you've been going through and what Drew's been going through. I miscarried, but I didn't lose a baby like you've lost a baby. And I've tried very hard to understand where you've come from, where you are, and how I could be anything to you. I guess I answered that. What more?
You've been on medication, were on medication for a long time, about 20 years. Okay. Do you have any idea those medications were affecting you?
No,
Okay. Did you trust your medical provider?
I did.
Who all in your family went to this medical?
Rebecca did, and I think Kaila did. I believe Kaila did as well.
And when were you taken off this medication?
If you'll allow me, I need to back up just a little bit. May I?
Yes.
I know that both of you have felt that I have evaded questions. I haven't evaded questions. I wasn't allowed to talk to you. I wasn't given the opportunity to talk to you. And I think that the one piece, I mean, different ones have alluded to how things happen. But the piece that has been left out is I had Uriel 4 days the week before, and I wasn't expecting to have her on this particular day. Kaila called me and asked me, said she was getting her hair fixed, and asked me if I would be willing to take her. I would be willing to take that child any day of any week for as long as they needed me to. I love my grandchildren, and I would have done anything for them. So when she asked me to take her, you know, it disrupted what my head had in mind for that day. But I was glad to have her. So after I had a prayer group, a prayer time that morning, and I called Kaila and asked her, I said a few ladies wanted to get together and go to Beef O'Brady's. Does she mind? She had already asked me if I would keep Uriel, excuse me, and I had said that I would. I said, do you mind if I take her with me? And she said no, that would be fine. So the piece that was left out is that when I went to the glass shop to pick her up, the other Kaila Nix, or Uriel Schock, helped me. I had Uriel in my arms, and she had the car seat. And I always put the babies on behind the passenger side so that I could see them out of my periphery. When your baby's sitting behind the passenger side, you always can just turn your head a small amount and see them. That particular day, there was a car that had pulled in close to the passenger side of my car. And when Uriel Schock took the car seat around to the passenger side to put it in, as I had asked her, the car was too close, and Kaila couldn't get the car seat in the car. So she came back around and she put the car seat behind where I was sitting, behind the driver's seat. And we went on about our business. She was the talk of the town at Beef O'Brady's. We thoroughly enjoyed her. She was perfect. And when everything was over and I put her back in the car seat, I very succinctly and carefully had everything all packaged up, and I slid it on the floorboard under her car seat. And she was so sleepy, I think from just being on that whole time, that I gave her her bottle, and she immediately fell asleep. And I don't live far from Beef O'Brady's, but she was sound asleep within seconds of me backing up. So when I pulled in at the house, there were roofers. We were having our roof redone, and they had asked me to not pull into the garage because he didn't know if there'd be stray nails or whatever in the driveway or on the driveway. So I backed up under an oak tree, and I can remember literally looking over to the passenger side and the back. Nothing was there. I looked in the passenger side and the front. Nothing was there. I looked at the dash. Everything looked clean. And so I got out of the car, and I went in the house and began to do the things that I had on my mind to do. And this is perhaps where the medication does come in. She got quiet, and I forgot that she was there. She was quiet, and there was nothing there to remind me that she was in the car, except the things going through my head that I needed to do. So may I go on from here, or do you want? I didn't realize that Uriel was in the car. I literally forgot it for a long period of time. I did know that I had made plans with Aiden, which is my oldest grandson, to take him to Walmart in Sebring to look for some Christmas ideas for him. And then I was going to take him to dinner and have him back early because it was a school night. He was about 4:15 or so. He was feeding the pigs back behind the barn. And I got in the car and I pulled up to the barn. And Nay came with his lawnmower around so that my driver door and where he was sitting in the lawnmower, I just opened up my driver door and we could talk. And we were just chatting about I don't even know what. And I said, when did Kaila come for Uriel? And he just looked at me. He said, I've been outside. I don't know. And then I said, when did Kaila come for Uriel? And it began to dawn on me. And then I opened the door and realized that she was in there all along. I could tell that she had passed when I looked in the car. And I ran back behind the barn to the west side of the barn. I looked for anything I could find to hurt myself. I wanted to be gone. I did not want to have to deal, I didn't want to have to look at Kaila and Drew and tell them that this had happened. I wanted to be gone. But there was nothing there. And there was not any way that, anything that I could find that would do that. So I fell on my face and I asked God just to take me. I said, I'm done. I'm done. I need you to just take me. And he wouldn't.
How do you feel about what happened?
I'm broken about what happened. I don't want to leave anyone with the thought that I'm making excuses, because I'm not. I was forthcoming with the detective. I asked to be taken to the sheriff's department. The video that you saw at the trial was during that time of me being in the sheriff's one of the interrogation rooms. When the detective came in, she asked me if I felt like giving a statement or talking about what happened. And without a lawyer, I told her everything I knew. I was not trying to hide anything. I didn't want to be there, and I didn't want to live at that moment, but I wasn't trying to hide anything. It ended up that I did go to Peace River, and I did it by choice, not because I was forced to do that. I didn't know what I was going to do to myself. I didn't get there until late or early morning, late night or early morning, and of course there was no sleeping that night. And Kaila, you said that you had heard my voice. I don't even remember coming out of the bedroom or the room that I was in the next day. I'm sure that you're telling the truth on that. I just simply don't remember leaving the room. Usually that's a 72-hour hold. I stayed 2 weeks. And I stayed 2 weeks because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how I could possibly handle looking at Kaila and Drew ever again, or Joanne and Greg ever again, or Nay. You know, I love my grandbabies. Joanne and Greg love their grandbabies. Nay loves his grandbabies. And I just simply did not know what else to do but just go there and try to keep my head on my shoulders. So every day, the next day after I got there, I told you I got there late night, early morning, and so they had me go to bed, which was ridiculous. But the next day I saw the psychiatrist, and that is what I think it was Dr. Estevez described, that he immediately took me off of my medicines. He said that the medicine, that the Ambien, they had me on, just so you know, and I'm going to take a small step back. Drew, I don't know if you remember you coming into your house the day that I was sitting at your house. Kaila had asked me to come over, and I was sitting at your house, and I just was watching her at the house. And you came in maybe around 12:30 or 1 o'clock. And I walked over, I got her settled, and I walked over to you, and I said, we haven't talked about Ezra. And I don't want to talk to you until you feel ready to talk. And when you feel ready to talk, please let me know. and I'll tell you anything you want to know. And then Kaila got up from her nap, and she came out, and I said the same thing to you. I said, I told Drew what I just said, and I don't know that you're ready to hear it yet.
Officer Martin told me that there were no charges for Ezra that day. That's why he came home. That's why I went to my room. I told you that.
You were taking a nap that day because you had asked me to come by and just sit with her that day. And when you came out, I said to you, I spoke to Drew, and I told him that whenever you guys were ready to talk about Ezra, that I would do that. And I never heard back from either of you. So I wasn't avoiding talking with you. I was waiting on you to tell me you were ready
And I had said that they
to
would
talk.
not. And that's why I'm gonna, and I understand.
Okay. And I've kind of lost where I was. That was the last thing I said before I went off on that. Can they read it back to me so that I know what the last thing?
This is a ECR, electronic recording. We don't have a live court report.
Okay.
We have to rely on what you discussed, or your lawyer can read direction.
All right. I really do forget where I was.
Would you like to tell Kaila or Uriel Schock?
I think that you have the impression that I have not grieved and that I have not cared about your children. Drew, I particularly picked that up from you, and that could not be farther from the truth. After she was gone, I stayed in bed for what felt like weeks. I didn't eat. I didn't care if I ate. I didn't take care of my physical being. I didn't want to go outside. I would tell Nay over and over, I know that you want to fix something for dinner, but I just don't care. I just don't care. And I was like that a long time until finally I decided I had to do something about it. And the courts were good enough to allow me to go to Blackberry.
How long were you there?
Blackberry was a alcohol, drug, and trauma center, and I was there for trauma, and I was there 7 weeks. So I spent 2 weeks at Peace River and 7 weeks at Blackberry.
Did it help?
It did help because I saw a psychiatrist every day, a psychologist, or a therapist. I saw one of the two of them every day. My fear in just going straight into some sort of counseling was that if I ever opened that box and then didn't see somebody for another week, I would never have been able to handle that. But after 7 weeks of intensive attention and therapy, when I got home, I began therapy every Friday until actually the Friday before trial. So for almost 2 years, trying to wrap my head around it, trying to.
Does that help you?
It has helped me.
So you're able to sit here today and at least somewhat talk about it without.
What I find is when I'm asked to talk about it, I can do that with my head now. But the second I begin to talk about Kaila or about Uri or Ezra, I just, that's the trigger, and I just fall apart because I love them so much. And I want to just go on and make another comment that Drew said, that you hadn't even received an apology from me. You had not received an apology because I wasn't allowed to talk to you. I wasn't allowed to be close to you. But let me tell you something. I would give anything, including my life, if Uriel or Ezra or both of them could be here. And I mean that. I would give my life if they could be here. But that is not how God wanted that to be. and I can't explain it beyond that. But that's not how God wanted it to be. So I've got to figure out how to live. You know, I've got to figure out how to not hurt myself. I woke up even just 2 weeks ago. Now, this has been 2 years and 4 months ago, and 3 years and 5 months, 3 months ago for Ezra. But I woke up 2 weeks ago out of a dead sleep in the middle of the night. And the first thing, I sat up, and the first thing on my mind was, what can I do to hurt myself? What can I do to get out of this? What can I do? And I thought of all these different ways that I could hurt myself or die. I wanted to die because I would never hurt your babies on purpose. You've got to know that. You've got to know that. I just would never hurt them on purpose. I loved your babies. With all of my heart, I love your babies. So if I have to apologize, I mean, if I have the opportunity to say I'm sorry is so menial and insignificant. But maybe if I told you that I would literally lay my life down for them, maybe that would make the I'm sorry more meaningful. I would do that if it would bring them back. You've got to know that. And I am desperately, desperately sorry for the pain that you've endured, for the loss, Joanne and Greg, of your grandbabies, for Nay. You know, Nay has stepped up and he's done all the dirty work. He's done everything. And he's done it with grace and with strength. And he's not going to get to see his grandbabies either. I don't know what else to say. I could probably babble on, but the important thing is that you know that I wouldn't hurt your babies. I just wouldn't. I think I did leave a part out when we were talking about the car, and Kaila Schock put the car seat back behind my seat. I think I did say that though. That
And you couldn't see it.
and I couldn't see them. Yes, I did say that. Okay.
When I hear about Ezra, I hear about Uriel. And saw the court order indicating the finding was that you were asleep at the time Ezra passed and they had left. But you still feel guilty about it.
Oh yeah, yes, I do. As soon as there were toys in the floor. We were talking about Ezra. There were toys in the floor, all over the floor, and every toy this day and time makes a noise of some sort. And Ezra and I had a pattern. When he was at the house, I have a red chair, and I would sit in the red chair, and about, 10 o'clock or so, he'd climb up, and I would rock him to sleep, and he would take a nap. And this particular day, he climbed up in the seat without me. And Nay, when I walked in the room, Nay was standing behind him, and he was rocking the chair, because he never gets to do that. That's always my joy, to do that. And so Nay was standing behind him and rocking the chair, and he fell asleep in the chair. And instead of picking him up and putting him in my lap, I let him sleep there, because that was important to Nay, that he had put him to sleep. So I sat on the corner of the couch with only an end table in between us. We weren't 3 feet apart from one another. And I leaned my feet back, I laid the chair back, and I dozed off. I did. And he was asleep, and I was asleep. And Nay ended up leaving to go to Walmart. I woke up, I mean, I didn't go in a real deep sleep, but I don't know how Ezra made it through the living room without hitting a toy because there were so many. And so when I opened my eyes, he wasn't in the chair. So I sprinted literally around the house, and I got in the car and I went down the driveway, and I turned to the left and went to the stop sign, and I turned to the right and went down a small distance, knowing that his little legs wouldn't take him that far. And when I came back from going west, I cut across the pasture because I saw something that looked like a little volleyball or something in the water. And I just cut straight across the pasture. I got out of the car before I even put on the brakes, and I scampered over. I hurried over to the pond, and I got him out, and I began doing CPR on him, and I screamed for the neighbor, and the neighbor called 911, and we were doing all that we could do. The only thing that we can figure is it was Christmas time, and we had white reindeer, and maybe he was enamored by the reindeer, and then the reindeer were probably 15 feet or so from the pond, and there were ducks in the pond, and that's the best that we can figure as to what brought him there.
And you don't know how he got out?
I don't know how he got out.
Okay. And you weren't aware he could open the door?
I was not aware he could open the door. He had started walking a few, handful of weeks before that, but I had never seen him reach for it's a lever handle, and I'd never seen him reach for the handle.
And then we discussed, was it length in it prior here?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say to the court, to the family?
Your Honor, whatever your decision is, I want you to know that I'm already in prison. No one can do more to themselves than I have done to myself. I wake up every day and I think about it. I go to bed every night and I think about it. And I will do that until I draw my last breath. So you may feel like you need to do something more, and I will understand that. But I do want you to know that I'm in my own prison, and it will last all of my life.
State.
I just have one question, Your Honor. And I'm sorry, and I'm a bit confused. You said many things. One of them was you don't want to make excuses, and then you listed off a bunch of things such as medication and Kaila Schock putting the seat in the wrong spot. I just want to know from you, why isn't Uri here with us today?
First of all, I'm not making excuses. Those were factual events. And Uri is not here because I left her in the car.
That's the question, John.
All right, anything, may she sit down, defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Nix. Defense, 4 seconds. All right. Defense, make your argument once your client gets to your table after you confer with her briefly, please.